with 1/3s. Imagine a 12/12. It can't die. So, you know, that's even if like somehow it comes down later in the game and you can't get it, you're still a ways off from lethal. You're pushing 12 each turn. So we'll see. DreadEye rocking the.
I like this. I love this. I like this.
He just kept it.
He's laughing. He's laughing at the keep. Dude, I stand this. You know, like. He's committed to the game plan. You gotta love it, okay? You have to respect this.
Forget the quest. Just completely throw it out the window. You coin Magtheridon into Fire Cell every time. Well, maybe not every time. you play Magtheridon when you expect brutes to be a potential. I mean, it could even just disincentivize brutes. The counter would be if the brutes come down the turn after you play Magtheridon, but then you have a 12/12 in play that can contest brutes anyway. So, only upside here. Only upside.
I have a serious question for you, TJ, and you might laugh at me, but I was playing Tavern Brawl last week, and I had to.
That was still in the game.
Yep, I had to play a thing called the Darkness. You remember that? Reynard's favorite Hearthstone card.
Yeah.
Would you play the Darkness in a last hero standing lineup to counter Rogue and Demon Hunter because they draw so much? Like even Warlock as well, right? It's just a 20/20.
Oh, that's actually a good point, huh? You just play it on 4 and then no, because usually when they get through their deck, that's the turn that they kill you. So who cares if you have a 20/20 if you're dead? Probably still wouldn't play it. Thumbs down.
Hey, Galen, next call set, can we get the Darkness back? Please.
Alright, I lost count of how many on here. Got the first quest completion. Okay, then he can stop here. Gotcha. Yes. He can stop here then.
Yes. Did we just coin it, dude? Are we gonna do the coin fire sale?
There you go.
Just hit him in the head, dude.
And he saw the 2 keep too. Like, what are you gonna? If you're gonna be coining Magtheridon, what else are you keeping? Are there any transform effects available or buffs? He could Star Student Stelina away the fire sale.
Neil is like somewhere. Neil is clapping his hands here as this hits. I think he's like the only person in the world.
Oh, he got the fire sale! Oh, he got it! Oh, there you go. Now he just gets to push 3 every turn.
The value, dude. Imagine. Okay, he didn't rip it. I'm sad now. Imagine if he just rips it back again.
Good try, though, DreadEye. Good try.
Up for the more active removal plan here and doesn't go Ice Barrier with this.
Yeah. It did delay quest completion, though, I guess. So, some upside, but he's taking 3 a turn, which is the rough part.
Yeah, and I guess that free a turn actually is slightly relevant when you think about the fact that it could open up for Lion Frenzy outs, right? That just become more and more doable for each step of the way.
They will never catch me.
I do think the Ice Barrier that will come down eventually will sort of just counteract a lot of that. But now the question kind of beckons here for DreadEye. Do you just continue to take the free every turn, or do you just get this 12/12 in? Because, like, do you just keep this Magtheridon dormant as a way to, as we've been talking about, disincentivize the brutes?
That's a tough question. I think you just keep going as is, and then, like, come to that conclusion if you actually end up drawing brutes. Just at this point, try and efficiently complete quest.
Yeah, and I also think that if DreadEye draws the Fire Cell again, which he has 3 draws for now, I think it's still just play it.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. There's 6 damage on board.
That's a lot of damage, actually. 5 times 6 is 30, and 30 is the amount of life that you have available when you start a game of Hearthstone.
Yeah.
So... Well.
Okay, no fire sale.
And complete
now,
him.
Yeah, but he sacrificed so much efficiency in the quest completion by going with the attempt at the Magtheridon plus fire cell opening. So now he's a little bit behind because Eddie has completed his quest. So that 7/7 is coming down next turn, and then with how much damage he's already stuck on DreadEye, there is a potential for a pretty quick kill with Lion's Frenzy.
Yeah, most definitely. This discover here is going to be huge, but it's actually a draw. This is the first step even. That's turn 5.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't realize. I didn't realize we were that far down. Okay.
Yeah. So he needs to set up for the clear. I don't think he can play in Canner's Flow here and just hope. He needs to set up so that he can actually get the Magtheridon out next turn and once again kind of throw quest completion out the window for a little bit just to try and stall. Sigil of Alacrity, okay, I mean, obviously you'd prefer to draw the Lion's Frenzy for 1 mana, but having it in the hand still could give options. To be able to, if you like, you don't pick up Glide, for instance. So hitting off Sigil as opposed to just the natural draw off the top is slight upside.
I grow impatient.
And again, Eddie, trying to figure out whether or not the loss of the 7/7 here is something that you need to think about. I think the answer is obviously no. You need the battle cry more than anything else. And with Brute in hand already, I don't think you're super scared of the 12/12 itself, because you're going to be able to deflect that for a bit and then set up for Lion's Frenzy.
Demons.
Pleasure doing business.
Oh, Sigil drawn is actually quite good. Alright.
Trade or not to trade?
I mean, is it even worth trading? It's probably going to die next turn anyway. Right?
You always listen to Rusty, okay? AVT, TJ, okay? AVT.
AVT. Oh my gosh.
You
brings me back.
Trader? For trade? No, you just have Arcane Select, so you don't do it for tradable.
Bummer, you can't even give spell damage to the Magtheridon. It's already been played.
Having to fireball a 1/3.
Unleashed!
It doesn't even set up like a 2-turn lethal. Oh, Glide picked up off the Sigil. So it cost 1. Second Glide picked up. I think you want to cast the on Outcast one. Wait, how many cards are in hand? Okay, no, he's got space. Sorry, I thought I counted 9 at the beginning. You might actually just play some Brutes and then stop. Let's see, he can draw, what, twice more with Acrobatics, then play double Philosophy. Can he get Brute and Lion's Frenzy down in the same turn? That's my question.
I think so, right? And
yes.
Then he can just stop, and with the double Glide, he should be able to manipulate a situation where he kills DreadEye pretty much regardless of whether or not the Brutes get to attack. Especially if he attacks this turn as well, right? So he just attacks even more.
Yeah, so you just Philosophy, double Brute, shuffle the Soul Fragments, and then push the 7, and then you should be looking at lethal potential next turn. Because he's got Soul Shear 2, and there is, with double Glide, plus a bunch of tradables in the deck and another Soul Shear in the deck, so that's 4 more Soul Fragments he could add in. Doesn't need much mana to complete it because won't need Kane and has already... doesn't even have Kane, but wouldn't need it anyway. And a lot of Soul Fragments left. He should be able to have the damage even through Ice Barrier.
Get to discover a spell here, TJ.
He's so far behind on the quest.
You start thinking bigger picture. Where does DreadEye go from here in terms of matchups, actually?
Against Brute Demon Hunter,
Yeah.
you just play Shadow Priest.
I guess that's, you know, the answer to everything. What did you have for breakfast? Shadow Priest. What do you want to become when you grow up? Shadow Priest. You know, like, it's just been that efficient, I'd say. But,
Yeah, I think the Shadow Priest makes sense.
These are due back tomorrow.
what I will say about Brew Demon Hunter is that it's a super exciting deck to watch pop off, because there's just something happening all the time.
Pleasure doing business.
Shuffles in 4 cards. Gets through the Ice Barrier with just the minions. Doesn't even need second glide to flip
He has 20 right now.
These are due back
21.
tomorrow.
20, he needs 22, so...
Yeah. Easily complete.
Pleasure doing business.
Soul Shear trade, Hero Power, whatever. Doesn't matter. There we go. He finds 23. So nice setup there from Eddie. I think that was a very well played game. Understanding, you know, DreadEye with a 2-keep was obviously coining out Magtheridon, looking to get the Fire Sale and the 12-12 down quick. So instead of trying to just play his own game plan and go for quest completions, chooses the Star Student Selena, actually hits the Fire Sale, so rewarded for it, and that was a big punish for DreadEye's keep. So nice little game there. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think that kind of just shows the different game plans on offer for this Brute Demon Hunter. It's not just playing Brute turn 3 or concede, right? You have these varying game plans that you need to, relatively early on, figure out where you're actually going with them. And again, we've been talking about Eddie needing to step up his play to make worlds, potentially, right? Even like just make playoffs at the first step. And if he keeps on bringing this level of understanding, then I don't see like why he shouldn't at least be able to put up a real push to get that, to be honest.
Agreed. But moving on to the next one, DreadEye does cue the expected matchup of Shadow Priest. We only saw the bans very quickly. Eddie banned the Demon Hunter away from DreadEye, and DreadEye banned the Rogue. So kind of looking at even further big picture, if DreadEye were to take this expected victory here with the Shadow Priest versus Brute Demon Hunter, would Eddie have a counter? And Eddie does have the full-on fatigue-y, double rod, draw your whole deck Warlock in his lineup, which I actually think is decent against Shadow Priest, just because a lot of those tools can double against Shadow Priest. Or he could take the Mirror, which I never like to put faith in a Shadow Priest Mirror because it's such a weird mirror match. One of the mirror matches where one of the few board-based mirror matchups where like being on the coin is better. It's very bizarre.
So before we start talking about this game on hand as well, he's also on double Nightshade Matron Eddie in the Warlock, which also helps against aggro. But yes, keeps the Crimson City Runner here, and DreadEye just throws everything but the Freshman. That sounds like a plan.
Oh, that's terrible. Eddie, good hand. DreadEye, bad hand.
I mean, you just start slinging from the top of the deck here. Just trust in the heart of the cards, right? Just, you know, from right, just play the rightmost card every time, and you just live.
I mean, I guess a 5/6 is very difficult for Brute Demon Hunter to deal with a lot of the time, so maybe Benedictus is...
So something I actually want to add here, right, is that imagine this Traveling Merchant as a Dragon Maw Overseer. That would be kind of lit, but also worth noting that Merchant is not a card you cut for Overseer, so it actually doesn't make sense in this scenario. It's not like a it doesn't occupy the same slot. But I actually think this is a matchup where having Overseer is actually quite good, because unless they have exactly Tusk Piercer and Hero Power, it's actually quite hard for them to deal with the 2/2. So like Freshman, Coin, Overseer, which is not an option for DreadEye, not in the deck. But that's a way to snowball your own board in this matchup. Yeah. Except the Deceptor though. Again, you're talking about how very often Deceptor could end up being dead because of a race stat being played already. And here, it's worth noting that DreadEye is on... Is he on 1 or 2? I think he's on 2, right?
2 Deceptors?
1 second, let me check.
Yeah, it's 1 Chaplain, 2 Deceptors for DreadEye.
This is the case for you, we're talking about going against double Deceptor, right? Where you just have the one race stat, and now the second Deceptor is just a Bloodfen Raptor without Beast Tag. Where the Chaplain actually has applications now.
Yeah.
Just to further prove your point from earlier on when we were discussing this topic.
I grow impatient.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be preference, because the game doesn't often go to the point where, you know, either of those matters, but I just like the slight optimization. Interesting turn from Eddie as well. On turn 1, decided not to play the quest, but instead trade the Persistent Peddler. I like that play because he wasn't going to complete the quest on 2 anyway, and he'd much rather hit, like, front-loaded card draw than have a tradable in hand, like Tusk Piercer or Sigil, to be able to try and chain quest completions in a row and preserve the Crimson Sigil Runner, and actually is rewarded with the Tusk Piercer pickup. So, slight deviation from the norm. Most players just jam the quest 1 no matter what their hand is. So I really like that Eddie's like going deep into the tank with trying to optimize the lines. It's pretty cool. It's what I expect from Eddie, honestly.
Yeah. I was about to ask, talking about going deep in the tank here, were we ever going to be going, for DreadEye here, going for double race step or double Tiny Fin into Traveling Merchant play? But I think that with the Soul Shear coming down here, I think, wait, are we actually doing this? Is this actually happening? I guess you have the Deceptor in there as well, so it's not completely that.
I mean, yeah. I think this is quite good, yeah.
So the play that I was looking at was regarding whether you did this without the Deceptors in the pool, so without getting a second minion back from each race stat until the Soul Share came down into it. And now the question becomes, do you play the Void Touched? Okay, I can see this as well. I guess I can see this just going...
Next turn, you go Void Touch Attendant plus Traveling Merchant, assuming that much of your board's not going to be cleared off. It's interesting, right?
It definitely is interesting. Because, again, there's nothing like Immolation or a Fellscream Blast. All these AoE cards are not present in the deck. You would even say that Eddie has probably gone as deep into the quote-unquote anti-aggro / removal pool as you can with this deck by having the Soul Shares, right? In terms of made-up cards dedicated to removal. I think that on average, this lineup probably nets you a better merchant because it sets up for a merchant payoff, but it also sets up for a massive Void Touch payoff.
Yeah, because every additional attack you gain on board gets +1 damage instead of just the +3 damage that he would have. Traveling Merchant would have been a 5-attack minion, so Void Touch Attendant would have been 8 + 4. It's actually still more damage with the Traveling Merchant.
Sometimes you just forget how ridiculous Void Touch actually is as a card. It's actually like it's a super. I really like the fact that it's in the game. I know that's probably a little bit controversial, but I am also an aggro player by heart. But it offers some interesting lines that you don't necessarily get elsewhere. Speaking about interesting lines, do you play Gatling?
Of course. He drew a death game too.
And it just gets traded off by the Brute.
I think that's fine. You're setting up more power than you would have if you did anything else. His other play would be like Wriggling Horror and then trade off almost his entire board and do almost nothing outside of it. Another Glide, I mean, might as well, right? It shuffles back in the Mind Render, I guess, but he gets to draw 3 more, which could include like double Void Touch Attendant or something that's going to punish him even further. He's really wanting second Brute here, to be honest, but looks like he's not going to find it. Does get quest completion. Oh, he drew the Mind Render again! Oh no, his hand just keeps getting better! Every time his hand gets better!
Okay, it's fine. Benedictus balances this, so it's not better anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Who am I kidding?
All right.
Who am I kidding? Who am I actually
dump the Void Touch Attendants and then Mind Render and GG.
Yeah, just trade off the 4/4 and just go face for 24,000 damage.
Yeah, I mean, this has got to be a 2-turn lethal. There's 4, there's 3.
You never trade here, do you? Like, is there a reason to trade? Like,
there's not a single call, because it's his own deck.
It's his own deck. There's no reason to take this trade. There is no reason to take this trade. All your stuff has free HP.
Yeah, and Shadow Priest doesn't have anything in the deck. Does he still set up the lethal? Did he not count? 3,
That's what I said,
6,
dude. You never count.
plus 8, 14, plus 6, 20? Plus a hero power. All right, I mean, he's still set up lethal. Regardless with the hero power. But I'm pretty sure you're supposed to count before you make that trade. Because if Eddie was on like 25 instead, then it would not have been lethal anymore. Because he's got, I think DreadEye has 25 on board. Hero power deals 4, and then 20 on board. He has 24 actually. So, yeah.
DreadEye is just a breakpoint gamer, dude. He just knows his breakpoints, okay?
Yep. All right. So that was an expected matchup, right?
Yep.
1 Brute came down, which is not enough. If 2 Brutes have come down, maybe that's a different story. I do like how Eddie played that early game. Just wasn't able to quite find the right lines. And holy moly, I just froze. Look at that. Can you still hear me?
I can definitely still hear you, CJ.
Okay. Well, let me just go ahead and reset real quick.
I think we both kind of just froze by seeing that trade, but I guess it's one of those things where it's one of those things you can overtrade, undertrade, and now we are looking at this deck list from Eddie, and again, it cycles through the deck very quickly, so again, we'll get to Scavenger quicker, we'll get to Matron as well, and I think the major adaptation we need to look out for here is actually the Spy's Bread Baker, which again, if you're attacking for control, you're leaving that out. Most of the time, if you're hardcore attacking for control, attacking for the mirror. But when you're attacking, more generally speaking, you're attacking more towards anti-aggro, which also the double Nightshade Matron will tell us here. Having the Bread Baker is actually so big, because against a lot of aggro decks, sometimes upwards of like 7 or 8 healing you get from the Bread Baker can actually prove pretty significant. There's obviously no giant to fully capitalize on the life-changing effect, but it's still very solid. We're going to be going into the game here and talking about the devil. It's right there, but it gets mulliganed our way.
Ways to fight for the board early in this mulligan. So as long as you can stabilize and then hit the point where you're just drawing a ton of cards and then are able to double up on healing, you should be okay. But Shadow Priest does have a good amount of just continuous persistent damage, and if you like take a turn off and let the board build up and Void Touch Attendant comes out, then that's when you find yourself in some trouble.
Talking about consistent, persistent damage. That's a Void Touch Attendant.
Is anyone else lost?
Job done.
So, opting for this obviously gives different options for DreadEye. Gives him the option of playing another 1-drop alongside the Void Touch, or just capitalizing with the Wriggling Horror. And now, if you're Eddie, do you like tap Coin Touch? I guess you never do that because you're not looking to maximize your reductions. Also, double backfire will provide options in the long run, as long as Eddie is able to stabilize on the board. And now, another question here, really. Is that going to be second Wriggling Horror Void Touched, or is it going to be Traveling Merchant?
I think I like the second Wriggling Horror plus Void Touched.
I agree.
Maybe even put the Wriggling Horror on the Void Touch to protect it from a potential Drain Soul. I like this.
This is the line that I was looking at as well. And I think on average this is obviously way better than a Yeti. Which is the technical term for any minion that has 4/5 in stats. I will not hear otherwise. Eddie having to Tamsin Coin Touch here, that's gotta feel rough. Because you still leave, so either you leave up 2/2/1s or you leave up the Void Touch Attendant, right? And either is quite bad in terms of where it takes you damage-wise. But again, the main objective for Eddie here is just survival. It's not about progressing quests. He is just here his aim is to fully survive for a while. But the race that is just money. You can look at the reaction from Eddie as well. He knows what's about to happen, but again, Tiny Fin Merchant here is also something we need to consider. This is rough here. There's one saving grace, and with the trade there, it's not even a saving grace anymore. There's just no Soul Rend. Like, in the world where like Soul Rend actually has an impact, I guess it removes a good chunk of damage, but the 5/6 still remains. Has the backfire for 4 even. And
oh jeez. Yeah, he's in trouble. Yeah, he's in a lot of trouble. And DreadEye is going to go all in here, but this, I mean, this should very well be enough. This is going to put Eddie to low enough to where even if a Soul Rend is picked up, the 6 damage would be enough. Wait. Oh, it's 3 off. Okay.
That's not Soul Rend though, so.
Nope. And I think that will be game.
Do you go out with backfire or tap, TJ? Asking the real questions there, I know.
I wonder.
It's worth noting that Eddie completes quest here, so if there's a tap or a draw or anything that saves him, technically I don't think there is. He needs to think about that for a second because he's actually not that in that regard.
Yeah, even if he tapped into Drain Soul and could like tap, then go up to 4, and then Drain Soul Touch would put him up to 11, it wouldn't take enough power off the board to win. So, yeah, I mean, that was Eddie's best deck now. So he's got to sweep now with his own Shadow Priest, I think is all that Eddie has left. Not sweep, but get the last 2 wins. So he has to win the mirror matchup and then beat the Warlock on the other side from DreadEye, I believe would be the last deck remaining since his Demon Hunter was banned away. Yep, so Eddie has to win the mirror and then has to beat Warlock himself. So that's how this series needs to pan out for Eddie to take a victory. And it looks like Eddie is also going with the double Chaplain, 1 Deceptor instead of vice versa. Same list otherwise. So pretty much a mirror matchup, just that 1/2 drop changed, swapped around.
And I think that Chaplain is better in the mirror or any matchup where you're going to be actively trading, right? Obviously, sometimes you just like having double race that can be the absolute nuts, but having that extra durability on your minions is going to be super huge in terms of being able to take favorable trades. Should they become relevant as well, that's worth noting that base raises are a thing because Void Touch Attendant maths become quite intense, I'd say, because sometimes you're like, if I leave up 1 or 2 Void Touch on my own side of the board and my opponent just jams out 2, am I just dead? Like, there's this constant dynamic that you have to think about for a second, like whenever you're leaving a Void Touch even on your own side of the board, is that, am I just dead if my opponent has Void Touched as well? But would you like to keep a Mind Render Illusion, CJ?
Not in the mirror. Much rather have more playable cards. Imprisoned Homunculus, a little bit awkward on the coin. If you're on the plane, you play it on 1. It's like a even though it's delayed and you're not able to immediately fight for board, when a 2/5 taunt comes out at some point in the game, it's just incredibly efficient, right? Your opponent has to spend multiple trades to get it to trade past it. So I still like it as a keep, even on the coin, but I think it's just better when it's not, obviously.
And how nice of a game to allow you to demonstrate your example with visually, because Eddie just top decked the homunculus.
Yeah, I don't think I want a coin here. I think this is about finding a swing, and I don't know. I guess it allows him to play Neophyte plus Hero Power next turn. Okay, well, if Eddie's expected to play his Neophyte, which it is, then this makes a lot of sense.
This also deals with 2 frees, as well as worth noting that this allows him to either push 1 damage and play a 2/2, a 3/2, sorry, if it's the Neophyte that comes down. But if it is a Chaplain or a Deceptor that needs to be played for tempo, then this allows you to trade off and take full board control before his homunculus comes back, right?
Yeah, well, I was thinking it would be, without using the coin on the next turn, it'd be a pretty easy tour guide, hero power, guardian aug merchant play. Because usually the more attacks, the better, since your opponent can't hero power for tempo. And holding onto the coin with like Benedictus in hand has some value, just because putting a 5/6 on board, it's actually not terrible in the mirror, because it's all about like number of stats, you know, with a balance of number of attacks on the board. So I don't want to call it the incorrect play, but I wouldn't have minded either way if he decided to save coin, because he had an answer to either a 3/2 or a 2/3 on board the next turn regardless.
Yeah, like I can see that. I don't necessarily disagree with you here in this regard. He decides to go for a different line from what we've been talking about altogether, and we can see now that with the key of the Wriggling Horror from Eddie, like there's, I don't want to call it a punish per se.
It's a punish. No, it's a punish.
But Wriggling Horror Arc Merchant is pretty good right now.
Yeah.
That's all I've got to say.
So from DreadEye's perspective, he's saying, all right, if you're Wriggling Horror, sure, you can take a value trade over a 1/1, but that's not the best thing that you could do. But now Eddie can take a value trade over the 2/3, preserving on board. Could also just Wriggling to completely minimize the number of attacks. Could Wriggling Horror and then just trade over, and then Guardian Aug Merchant the 1/1. So then you'd have two 2/1s on board, which are not that efficient to hero power. And you would still kill off both the minions on the other side, instead of like leaving up the tour guide. But you also know that there... Oh. Does he want a Guardian Aug Merchant the 3/6? I think it's a little early for Void Touch Attendant. It's this is mostly a board battle for much of the game. All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
But to be fair, next turn he has Prio, and if there isn't a Void Touch, not Void Touch, sorry, what should I say? If there isn't like a Wriggling Horror from DreadEye or any other ways to protect the Arc Merchant, protect the homunculus even, then you have some pretty good trades in the pipeline, and that by extension will allow you to push damage. But I think I also prefer the Arc Merchant coming down that turn over what was the case here with the Void Touch Attendant. Attendant.
Yeah.
Yep. There's the double T in there, not a double C. But I feel like sometimes when you just like play double Void Touch, you're like kind of ascending. So I think that's kind of where I like made the analogy in my mind that like I'm just like you just like raise above and beyond everyone else when you just like hit them in the face for like infinite damage with Void Touch. So I'm like, it's an ascendant, not an attendant, but.
Muzzle their magic.
I like this play. You triple trade here. This presents like multiple ping targets that are difficult. The Twilight Deceptor doesn't trade over the homunculus. Seems pretty good. Cold Neophyte will block Raise Dead as well. Well, not block it, but will make it a little bit more difficult to use. Homunculus at this point is not what you want to be getting back, so we'll just have to... Okay, it's not going to ping.
I mean, I can see a world where you do this, right? It's just about getting the maximum amount of attacks on board.
Well, the Cold Neophyte would take off one attack and give Eddie less flexibility on how he deals with the board. I don't know.
I must consider.
Yeah, like I don't like the play, but I don't hate it. It's a very whelming play, I would say. So, with the current state of DreadEye's hand, it could be something like Benedictus into something else, into Gatling, I guess. The big thing here for DreadEye is that he's already down a race that he hasn't drawn any of the zero mana minions either so far. There's one in Eddie's race that pool, but there's not one in DreadEye's pool, right? I'm not misthinking here.
Attendance?
No, zero mana minions, imps and anything.
Oh. Let me look.
Could be wrong.
There's none in either.
That's not an either, that was a different game then. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
It can be quite hard to keep track of that because you see the race that's flying everywhere and then your math is all wrong, but...
Yeah.
Thinking about gambling here, this is a pretty ace position.
Yeah, so this is kind of the snowball effect for DreadEye from like the previous turn, like taking out the Cold Neophyte and not developing Vulgar Homunculus. Or is that not Imprisoned Homunculus, sorry. Thinking back a couple sets. This turn would have been like, he even picked up Freshman off the top. I'm surprised he didn't just go Gambling plus Freshman instead of 5/6, because it puts 7 power on board and multiple attacks, which seems better than 5 power on board and only 1 attack.
Money though.
Yeah. I feel like this has been kind of a weird game from DreadEye overall, in just the ability to fight board for board. It's been it just seems inefficient.
Yeah, and flailing game plans, right? Like, generally speaking, you don't mind a quote-unquote worse line, or what we perceive as being a worse line. Granted, it's consistent, but I don't necessarily think that the lines from DreadEye have been consistent. Wait, we do not... like, you killed the 5-1, no? I guess you want the 4/4s instead, but do you even? I don't know.
Count your blessings, mate.
At that point, I don't think, no matter what he did, he was in a very rough spot. But now this will certainly be game over here. Could take a bunch of value trades. Could even value trade over the opponent's Ganling. And a hero power. Yeah.
Like, I have the line. There's somewhere where Light Bomb does something. Or no, there is not. But like, imagine there's like random Light Bomb disappears out of nowhere. Imagine when Light Bomb was our main worry about priest cards.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Job's done.
It has been quite a while. There's always been that one removal. I guess now, no. That's by the time any big removal comes down. You've already either won or lost the game, so... I do, for the most part, like the way that Eddie played that. There was like one turn, this turn in particular, where he developed the Attendant instead of Og Merchant, but even then that's arguable. But it was just overall clean and a nice consistent game plan of making sure that he had the best trades available to him on board. Whereas DreadEye, I think there was a lot more to optimize with his lines there. So we'll see if that's going to come back to bite him, because I don't think that his hand was like atrocious, right? Being on coin does have its benefits sometime in the mirror, because it allows you to get 2 attacks on board faster than your opponent. and that can have like a rippling effect on the rest of the game, since it is almost 100% a board battle. Whoever wins board will win the game. There's no going over the top. It is a snowball. But we'll move on. DreadEye, last deck remaining. This will be game 5. It's the hand lock, and it's similar to Eddie's with a few slight differences. Like if we look at them side by side, you had mentioned earlier the Spice Bread Baker, which could come in handy, but honestly, I don't think it's the other Warlock, not Spice Bread Baker. All right.
So the thing is,
good that he doesn't have it, I think.
There's not even Scavenger in the list from DreadEye, so like there's not that payoff in terms of being able to cut down on your deck. So again, DreadEye here is... So, this is an interesting pair of cards to keep, right? Falno's Plot Touch. But, like, I kind of just like to kick everything and just find and look for a Soul Rend. Because I feel like you need that initial reset as the Warlock player in this matchup for it to really have an impact. And also, there's Armorwind in this deck that I kind of forgot about, because there is no Giants in this lineup, so I didn't have a fantastic point to talk about. No, we play Armorwind at turn 1 here, no?
I mean, it really hampers your ability to complete the quest, because when you tap with armor, it doesn't do anything. Like, you're not taking damage.
That's true, actually. That was the point with Armorwind, but I was more thinking the fact of being able to actively trade on board with a coil in hand, but I guess there's not many 2 HP minions in a deck for Priest, so it actually doesn't change anything.
Yeah. No matter what, you'd be able to trade with whatever comes on board, and this just allows for more flexible options, I feel. He can actually get quest completion, which isn't super relevant, but just a way to negate some of the damage that you're taking. Armor Vendor will always gain 4 armor, but if you use it first, then your taps may not be as efficient, because you're not actually getting quest completion for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like, I concede my point. Which is very un-European of me, but I do concede my point.
Alright. I mean, DreadEye's got a pretty good hand for just fighting for board, but, we saw what DreadEye on the other side of this matchup was able to do. Though he had a much better hand, it feels, in a lot of cases, because he had the Void Touch Attendant, which was able to be brought back by the Raised Dead. Eddie is bringing back some things, but they're not as impactful as the Void Touch Attendant.
I mean, I'd actually say that Wriggling Horror in this matchup in specific can be quite impactful because of Torrent here. But I think this is a very good angle for DreadEye to go for this backfire.
Oh, double Soul Red. He's cooking now.
That's good. He's gone from your everyday like food truck. He is now in the kitchen of like a top tier restaurant with that second Soul Rend as well.
That's all it takes is one ingredient. Soul Rend is the truffle oil of Handlock.
Is it though? I feel like it's just like good oil because it's just the baseline of it. It's not even. It's not something extra, is it?
Oh, I mean, to some people, truffle oil is the base. All right, Eddie stopped himself. I like this. He stopped himself. Nope, he didn't stop himself.
Nope.
All right.
Soul Rend is not a Hearthstone card, CJ. And despite what some people think, Cold Neophyte is not low fab. And you can see Eddie, praying for that, and he realized that. And he could have had a 3-1 alive to hit DreadEye in the face.
He knew it! He knew it was there! Well, he didn't know for sure, but you could tell he knew.
But in that moment, he knew. He done goofed.
So maybe, in his mind, he said, well, if he has it, he has it. So let's break this down. He would have traded off 3 damage and preserved 3 damage. So maybe he was just thinking, all right, it's going to die next turn anyway. Why wouldn't I just push the 3 now? And the upside is, if he doesn't have it, I've just pushed 3 extra damage. And if he does have it, I would have probably only pushed 3 extra damage anyway. But I still probably would have made the trade.
Yeah, but like it's like when you put up the equation again, right? That is something that you need to think about. Like, it's also pretty clear that it probably wasn't what Eddie wanted to see there. Like when he realized that it wasn't his ideal play, but there is still some warrant to the play. And second Sovereign is more of a preemptive measure here, more than anything else. But plus, as we're going to talk about here with the back, that is a pretty solid board state here, and I think that unless a minor miracle happens for Eddie, that it's another line.
That is my correction.
Okay.
Yeah, he's gonna save for one last reload, I think, and put another must-kill minion on board. I don't know. At this point, I feel like he could just shut his eyes and play cards and probably still stumble upon a victory.
That's what I do on ladder, and I got legend this month, so yes, that works.
All right, well, I mean, he's probably gonna mind render here. It's literally his only play. He could dump the tour guide and get a free hero power out of it. Oh no, he's gonna save it. Okay, it gets him a bristleback.
Or maybe.
All right.
Patron discards the Sovereign here, which allows him to go wide by extension, actually.
Okay.
That could actually be relevant here. Like I'm not even joking. Like this discarding of the Sovereign here with the Matron.
I wonder.
Well, like, am I missing something here?
Not too quickly.
Please tell me if I am, because you also deal with the minion by extension here, by doing this, and you remove the biggest threat to your ability to replay the board. Because you're not two-turning unless you're literally aiming for the Void Touch out. I suppose that's what he's aiming for here.
There is no.
I mean, is Void Touch lethal? 4, 5, 6, 10, 12 plus 6, 18. It'd be 1 off. But then if he soul rends, he would die to the hero power next turn. No, I think I like this better because it shuts off the healing.
Well, okay, yeah, that's actually very true. I think that I was just in a very different place than Eddie was here. And again, Eddie, being the better player here, has the better line, I suppose. And also, if DreadEye wants to soul rend this, he's going right into fatigue without having quest completion. This is actually just a much better play.
Yeah, he's still a ways off from quest completion, if I'm not mistaken. And fatigue is actually very dangerous because the Void Touch attendant just adds to the fatigue. Let me look at the remaining cards from... There's 1 touch left in the deck from DreadEye. That's the remaining healing. Doesn't find it off the draw. Actually,
He will
find it off this.
But he won't be able to play.
He won't be able to play. Didn't hit it. Oh, whoa. Okay.
We have a game, TJ. And once again, Eddie just proves why players are smarter than casters. Then you raise that for the healing?
Wait, what? He left himself dead to Void Touch attendant off the top.
He did. Yeah, you look at Eddie's face. Eddie knows.
What?
Eddie knows. Eddie knows, dude. I mean, is Eddie dead on board? 2, 3, 8, 13, 19. He's not dead on board. If you're Eddie here, you just hero power and run it back, no?
I must consider. Wow.
Was that a player triggered emote, or was that just the Anduin time has gone emote?
14, 15, 16, 17, 18. He's only on second quest completion, so next turn he could tap. And then he'd go back up to 3. Well, no, he'd go to 2. He's dead over 2. Oh, no, he has touch, and Tamsin's still on board. All right, no, he wins.
Oh, yeah, okay, he wins, yeah.
Yeah. So Eddie's supposed to... Oh, yeah. Oh, my... And he got it! Arm riven... No!
It was never in doubt, TJ. It was never in doubt from DreadEye. He just knew, dude. He just knew, okay? Second arm event, let's go. There's no...
Here for the tour? Blood is my currency.
You have bet.
Well, any comments, TJ?
No. I kind of just want to forget that game of Hearthstone ever happened. What was the second the Tamsin Unstable Shadow Blast used on? Because the first one to take out the 4/4 makes sense, right? Because you take 2 damage, but you're taking 4 damage off the board. I need to watch this closely to see if we actually highlighted it. It was 3 damage.
It's free for free, right?
Yeah, so it makes sense actually. I must be missing something because he did leave himself dead. He could have just left the Mind Render up and traded over the Benedictus with the 3, and then he would have left 1 up, with which Void Touch Attendant would be 2. There was 100% a way for him to not be dead to Void Touch Attendant in that situation. And that's just one optimization. I'm sure there were other optimizations that we can make. So I don't think there's a world where that's the correct play. But DreadEye still gets the victory. He drew aggressively through his deck. He was obviously trying to find the touch on the previous turn. That's what he was drawing. It was his last card. But then he kind of just flopped around after that, slinging cards out of his hand, and did leave himself out. It was like a 1 in 9 for lethal, because I think there was like 18 cards left in the deck for Eddie at that point, and he had not played a Void Touch Attendant yet. So pretty rough. A couple rough games in a row for DreadEye, but he stumbles across the finish line, and that's what matters. The win at the end of the day is what matters. So he'll join Language Hacker for getting out of Group C. We will see DreadEye compete in another Saturday, which he struggled, and he's 2-6 overall on Saturday's broadcast in his time over the last 2 seasons, and he is the current the reigning weekly champion from last week, and it seems like his lineup makes sense. So with that said, we have 3 decider matches down and 1 to go left on the day. Before we jump into that last one, though, we are going to have to go to a quick break, but don't go anywhere. More Hearthstone action right after this.